Good evening, everybody. Thanks so much for joining in today. I'll introduce the speaker. Today's program is being recorded. Any views expressed in this webinar are for general educational purposes only and do not represent any official views or positions of the sponsoring or presenters organizations. We are looking forward to your questions at the end of the program. Submit them during the chat and during the talk anytime. Greetings and welcome to today's education program, Future of Work and Education, Braided Solutions by Evelyn Van Til. This is your moderator, Shobha Mittal with ASQ Quality Management Division. Today, we have the distinct pleasure of hearing from Evelyn. Please join me in welcoming her. Evelyn Van Til is at core an education to career cultural architect, actively building innovative workforce solutions through collaboration. Evelyn brings a background creating and executing early career, tech training, and apprenticeship programs. She currently serves as the Strategic Partnership Manager at American Student Assistance, where she delivers win-win digital experience for current and prospective strategic partners, including acquisition, service, and impact. Based in Columbus, Ohio, she has previously served at a variety of education and workforce organizations, including the Washington Technology Industry Association's Workforce Institute, Apparenti, the Ohio State University, the Ohio Department of Education, Tech, Talent and Strategy, and a variety of other roles in tech education, business, and workforce development. Igniting imagination in service of equity has also led Evelyn to organize events like Maker Hour of Code, Maker X, and other events for Computer Science Education Week, and previously to found 4th Street Farms in Vineland Park as an urban farm on a mission to eat, educate, empower, and employ people together. MakerX celebrates making with technology from gaming and XR/AR/VR to robotics and drones, 3D printing, sci-fi co-plays, fashion tech, digital art, music, software and media creation, high-tech transportation, and much more. It is my pleasure to introduce Evelyn, and without much delay, Evelyn, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the warm welcome and intro. As you said, my name is Evelyn Van Til, and I have a background in higher education, tech training, workforce, and early career programs. I have seen the power of education to change lives and the disappointments of education failing to deliver for people. For example, at The Ohio State University, I drove programs that moved our student success metrics forward with heart, creating first year programs that flipped the script on retention and GPA and time to degree. We went from losing 90% of our students in the first year to retaining more than 91%. We went from a 2.2 GPA across the board to a 3.2 college wide. And we went from 7 to 9 years time to degree to a much more reasonable 4.5. And I've seen the power of workforce training, boot camps, micro credentials, and most powerfully at all, apprenticeship programs and work-based learning programs that meet people where they are and grow people along a path of technical instruction and on-the-job training. Last April, I joined American Student Assistance in strategic partnership because I wanted to bring much of my experience, much of what I've learned in higher education and adult workforce to serve middle school and high school students. ASA is a national nonprofit with a mission to help students know themselves, know their options, and make informed choices to achieve their education and career goals. For over 60 years, ASA has paid close attention to the needs of students and has worked to develop innovative solutions to the challenges they face. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Can we move forward to one next slide? Slide. it working? There we go. Okay. Let's go one more slide. Oh, we moved back. There we go. Next slide. Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. ASA for 60 years has paid close attention to the needs of students and has worked to develop innovative solutions to the challenge they face. I think we're on the next slide. We'll be back on track. There we go. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. ASA is a change agent for career readiness, and we're taking a multifaceted approach to devise true lasting change for students. We innovate, we educate, we advocate, we collaborate. Students live in the digital world, and so we're meeting them where they are with tools and platforms to support their plans for the futures they want. We also work in policy and practice to ensure students have equitable exposure to career readiness, career exploration resources, work-based learning experiences, and can navigate post-secondary educational paths that meet their career objectives, and partner with those across ed tech, business, philanthropy, and nonprofit sectors that facilitate the development of critical career learning experiences that can be scaled to reach students nationwide. Next slide. We sustain our mission through innovation, advocacy, and investment with net assets of over $800 million. Next slide. Here is a sampling of our current philanthropic grants that span the U.S. Next slide, please. And a few more of the programs that we contribute funds to through the Catalyze Challenge, which is one of our many collaborations across foundations and philanthropic organizations doing this work. Slide. And in March 2021, ASA secured a $100 million social bond to deepen our impact in reaching and engaging students, helping them make informed decisions and achieve life goals. This strategy connects our high impact programs where we learn what works and informs our direct-to-kid engagements online. So let me share with you this evening just a few of our learnings from our high impact programs and our research that are driving our work forward. Next slide, please. As you likely know better than most, we have a skills gap in this country and likely around the world. Over the next decade, millions of new and existing jobs will need to be filled, and the gap between these roles and the skills that people possess will leave many of these jobs unfilled. For example, just in manufacturing, 4 million jobs will need to be filled, and of those, 2.1 million will likely remain unfilled. And this is true not just in manufacturing, but across many sectors, from insurance and banking to cyber and gaming. Jobs that require technical skills are growing fast and are getting harder to fill. Already, employers are telling us it's much harder to hire than it was in the past. And this is true despite recent highly publicized layoffs in the tech sector. Slide, please. So why is there a skills gap? Well, first, in addition to job growth in many sectors, and I'll add a graying workforce, teens are not getting exposure to the workforce in the way that you and I likely did. Many of the jobs previously held by teens no longer exist, are automated, or are now held by adults. Paper routes are a thing of the past, and retail or fast food jobs are more likely to be held by a working mom or a senior citizen than a teen. Second, and this is a key point impacting broadly, not just Gen Z teens, but technology, both digital and physical, is evolving more quickly than people are building competence and confidence around those skills. Just think AI in the last couple of months, right? So bottom line, learning to learn is one of the key takeaways for the future of workforce, as is equally critical the need to increase early career readiness, as youth is clearly the workforce of the future. Next slide, please. This lack of experience or youth absence from the workforce has impacts on skills, identity, and social capital, and not just for those teens. It works both ways. But social stunted skills and low social capital make it difficult for those people, early career folks, to gain entry into growth careers. And they may get stuck in low paying jobs. They may lack visibility or traction to move into growth careers. Next slide, please. And the rapid evolution in technology combined with limited social capital compounds the skills gap. The skills gap cannot be bridged solely by higher education or higher ed initiatives. We need robust apprenticeship programs and applied work-based learning programs braided into to connect the dots between learning and doing for skills to grow and people to benefit. For example, in my last role at Apprenti, where as part of the Washington Technology Industry Association's Workforce Institute, I worked to stand up apprenticeship programs at Fortune 500 companies across the United States. 60% of the apprentices in this program already had a college degree. 25% had an associate's. Only 5% had no college whatsoever. And this is a program that did not even require any degree whatsoever, not even a high school diploma. We were starting them off in apprenticeships in cyber and software development, business analyst roles, IT support, 15 different roles that we worked on. And these apprentices were across the board typically employed, referred to us by, they were on aid. Coming to us, they were working bar back, driving Uber, stocking grocery shelves, all fine jobs, but not ones that required college degrees. And across the board, these apprentices told us they felt like failures. They felt like failures because they had done everything that they were supposed to do, but it wasn't working out. They weren't finding jobs. They couldn't support their families. They weren't able to grow and find jobs that really even required college degrees or paid living wage. But apprenticeship helped them make that leap into a career of growth because apprenticeship braided that educational training connected to a work-based learning opportunity, mentorship, and provided a space to learn and earn. They were motivated, they had a job, they had a boss, they had projects, they had a space to learn and to grow. And we need to provide that for more of our kids. In addition, relevance in learning, next slide please, cannot be relegated to the end of education or pushed off as an after graduation activity. We see a lot of that happening, right? In high school, go to college, figure it out. Or, in college, I'll graduate and then I'll figure it out. Or possibly the worst advice, go to grad school and figure it out, right? We must start with the end in mind with more experiences that center student engagement. By focusing on relevance, authenticity, collaboration, autonomy, and higher level thinking, students are more engaged, and our research shows that they perform better than in traditional modes of instruction. Next slide. Specifically, we need to braid into education more work-based learning, developmentally appropriate, but we know from our research at ASA that 50% of kids don't want to go to college. But they don't know what else to do. Work-based learning gives students an opportunity to try out career pathways, make informed decisions, build confidence around their skills, make more informed long-term decisions, which may include post-secondary education. But now it's motivated, they're motivated to succeed, and they're equipped with an understanding of how what they're learning is connected to their future opportunities. They're able to more clearly articulate their skills and describe their ability to provide value in an employment situation. Next slide, please. 79% of high school students tell us they're interested in internships to gain skills, gain work experiences, and explore career fields. But only 2% have completed one. Most cite lack of awareness or access. Only 34% of students have even heard of high school internships. Now, girls and older students tend to be the larger proportion of students who say they want an internship to gain skills and explore career fields. But we know that all learners benefit from applying skills, from gaining experience and building confidence, from reality testing things. And work based learning gives the opportunity to try things out in real life, build that confidence and competence, as well as other human and durable skills that are essentially the foundations of technical competency. Next slide. So, one challenge that we do have here is in braiding education and workforce is that most companies in the United States, frankly, don't offer high school internships. However, those that do, and they cite both altruistic and strategic reasons for doing so, most frequently say that they want to help students develop skills and they want to help their employees develop leadership or grow in leadership. For 83% of firms offering internships, that's part of their corporate goals. And 89% say they use internships to find future employees. Yet, despite those really astounding benefits, most employers still don't offer internships for high schoolers, citing, no business need, no resources to support, often a thinking that high schoolers aren't suited for the work or that there's liability or budget issues. And while that's understandable, it puts us at a disadvantage to countries and companies in other states, other countries that around the globe, work-based learning is woven into high school or even middle school job shadowing programs. The ability to see yourself reflected in the world is a critical component to developing a sense of future. Next slide, please. And building that workforce of the future is going to require a whole village. At ASA, we have a lot of research and resources to assist, but it's going to take coordination amongst all of us on this call and beyond to meet the needs of the future of work. Next slide. Currently, only 12 states have dedicated funding, only 17 incentivize employers. But the good news is there are state models to support work based learning, and together we can ignite the energy we need. While that work is continuing, though, kids are growing up and they're spending 7 or more hours online on their own outside of school. So ASA meets students both in and beyond the classroom with digital tools, resources, and information to empower their career planning journeys. We believe that exploring career potential as early as middle school and having equitable access to education to career pathways aligned with one's passions and goals will result in greater confidence and long-term success for all students. Next slide, please. Today, too many students just aren't aware of the scope of education and career opportunities available after high school, and too few understand their unique value. Fundamentally, kids cannot be what they don't see. So ASA is working to empower, invest, and advocate for changes in the way that 30 million kids learn about careers. It's important to understand that less than 32% of the US workforce has a baccalaureate degree or higher. And most of those that begin college or post-secondary education often do not complete this, typically due to financial reasons. Or if they do complete, they may find that may find themselves in jobs that don't fit their goals or desires. They're jobs they need, but not careers that they love. So we cannot leave schools to provide career readiness alone. I don't know how your middle school or high school experience went, but we all know that it can be really difficult for many kids. And certainly COVID has not helped. Issues like mental health, bullying, confidence, social media pressures, these are significant concerns. And compounding these issues are school systems hindered by conflicting priorities and a lack of equitable access to the tools, information, and experiences proven to help prepare students for successful careers. ASA is working to change this. Next slide, please. We're working to reach kids directly, starting with building out our YouTube channel with quality kid centric career exploration videos that feature all kinds of industries, all kinds of tech roles, advanced manufacturing, robotics, healthcare, entrepreneurial, 3D printing, design, so much more. 7 million unique viewers, 38 million views a year. We got the message that there's a lot of interest from Gen Z about learning about careers in these areas. Next slide, please. And we use that interest to leverage to build Futurescape. Um, and Futurescape, it helps kids learn more about themselves, explore within the literal universe of all the jobs out there, how their interests and personality fit into careers, salary information, educational requirements, internship opportunities, apprenticeship programs, so much more. It's a really fun and interactive platform that uses a narrative driven personality quiz, 11 questions, 2 minutes. It's off to the planets to explore. And as kids explore the planets and add careers of interest, it adds content to their feed. And there's tons of videos and other content for them to explore and experiment with early in their career development. This is a platform for 13 to 18-year-olds. And they're able to experiment and explore early on. It opens up their ideas of what they can do. And with more than 4 million kids using the platform in 2021, 6 million in 2022, and extremely positive feedback from kids, I encourage you to check out Futurescape. Happy to share the links after. We're seeing strong traffic in Futurescape from underrepresented minorities, urban and rural, as well as across many other demographics. We're seeing that kids love Futurescape and they love exploring their future. Next slide, please. But we're also hearing from kids that career feels really far away to them. And that's totally understandable, right? 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. It can feel really far away. Time moves differently. They haven't experienced it yet, but we know it's right around the corner. So we started work on the next piece of building confidence in voice, building confidence in connecting to your community. And so Next Voice is a youth centric platform we launched in last September that connects kids to the top Gen Z issues like climate change, racial justice, gender equity, mental health, and of course, life after high school, providing accessible data visualization tools, near peer voices that empower teens to find their purpose and help them advocate for the changes they want to see. Next Voice gives teens a platform that meets them where they are and activates them to connect to causes in their community. Next slide, please. And on April 17th, this month, ASA will launch our next platform in our ecosystem called Evolve Me, which incentivizes teens to move forward, move to action around career readiness. Next slide. Evolve Me adds a game-like experience for Gen Z to move from career quizzes to 21st century skill building, social emotional learning, project-based learning, work-based learning, social capital building. There are activities from mock interviews to managing stress, finding internships, mentorship programs, gamified learning, and more. Next slide. Evolve Me is a gamified platform that adds the missing layer of incentivization to quality content that's out there for kids to move from education to career. It adds an extrinsic motivator. And that incentivization adds a layer of excitement, purpose, bond, engagement for the kids, an increased likelihood that kids will explore, experiment, and execute. Not every kid has a present adult guiding them along the path or helping them plan. Not every school has great career resources or the bandwidth to connect kids from education to career. Next slide. So this ecosystem will unite the previous platforms I mentioned. So you can see Futurescape and Next Voice represented as we build things out. But we are moving quickly also for our launch to add content to the platform from a broad array of gaming studios, ed tech, nonprofit, industry associations, media technology corporations, and others who have content, typically asynchronous, that can be delivered directly to kids online in a way that makes learning fun. Next slide, please. And we'd love to add more career readiness to this platform and relevant rewards to really incentivize kids moving forward. Gearing up now to serve millions of Gen Z teens and connecting to the world of work. Next slide. As kids complete activities in Evolve Me, they earn rewards. And these rewards are key to the gamification that provides incentive mechanisms that keeps kids playing the game, keeps kids evolving and growing. And we invite you to consider partnering with us on this platform so that together we might reach more than 15 million kids. There's 30 million kids in the US ages 13 to 18. And we'd like all of them to help find their purpose, plug into careers, and meet the needs of the workforce of the future. Next slide. So much like the story of Stone Soup, if you know the story, if you're not familiar, a traveler comes to a village and hears that everyone's hungry. The traveler goes to the center of the village and begins to build a fire around a very large cauldron and adds a magical stone and some water. Firing it up, it begins to turn into broth. And as this traveler starts to stir the water, a few people start to add ingredients of their own. Little chickens, some sausage, some carrots, maybe some cabbage, potatoes, some spices. And each person brings what they can to add a unique flavor. And as they stir, it becomes a delicious and aromatic soup that feeds everyone. So I'm sitting here today, like the traveler in Stone Soup, inviting you to consider partnering with ASA in creating the workforce of the future. We all need to work together. Many hands make light the lift across the educational workforce ecosystems to help kids in our communities connect the dots from education to career. I want to ask you to consider how each of your organizations, how do you plan to connect to Gen Z? How do you plan to make your workforce ready for Gen Z? How will you grow the next generation of workers? And how will you connect those people, those teens that quickly become adults to your content, to your brand, and to your workforce needs? How will you share that and welcome them? At ASA, we're committed to firing up a gamified ecosystem, that cauldron I spoke about, that moves kids from education to career along milestones of career exploration, experimentation, and execution. We're investing significant resources to build out Evolve Me and to integrate within Evolve Me a huge range of activities that make learning fun for teens and rewards that engage them and keep them moving. But we can't do it alone. Many hands make light the lift towards the future of braided solutions, weaving education and workforce together, inspiring lifelong learning. So I invite you to join me in opening doors for more people to move with confidence and competence into a fulfilling career. Next slide. If you're interested in the links to the platforms or the slides today, please feel free to reach out to me via email or LinkedIn. Thank you so much for having me this evening.
Thank you, Evelyn. That was wonderful. Uh, yeah, we do have a couple of questions that have come in, and let me see here what we've got. Um, okay, here's one. Do you believe the current school system is broken? Is it disruption required for Gen Z, Alpha, and so on?
I mean, that's a great question. I really appreciate it. And I think we have an educational system that's very complex, and it was designed over 200 years ago. Um, there's a lot of amazing people doing amazing work. But the system itself isn't serving our needs for now. And I think there's an opportunity to continue to grow. And just as we moved from, horse-drawn carriages and horseback to cars, and hopefully as we move forward in transit, to designing ecosystems that serve everyone, so too in education, we can design systems that serve everyone and get them from education to career in a way that is impactful, meaningful, engaged, and joyous.
Okay, thank you. Um, okay, so this one gets into the question you had about, employers. Actually, I've got two of them here. One of them is short. How do you deal with companies that either do not pay interns or only give them, quote, dirt, close quote, jobs that really do not help them develop relevant skills?
Yeah, it's a long time issue, the issue around internships, working in higher education 20 years ago and beyond, still to this day, it's an issue that we need to address in terms of unpaid internships. It's just unequitable. Um, and I think, in terms of changing the minds of employers, data certainly is a critical component. If they're running a business and they need labor, it's important for them to see that retention is a cost, and that if they're going to attract the future, the workforce of the future, they're going to need to rethink how they're moving people into onboarding and during the employment. Otherwise, it's going to be continuing to escalate costs, and it's going to be a difficult thing for them to continue to sustain. So, from my point of view, not recommending those kind of employers is the place to start. Start by elevating employers that do embrace good practices and direct our amazing kids, teens, and others in the workplace to employers of good repute.
Okay. So this next one's a little longer, and I actually saw something on the news this week. I'm not going to interject into this, but here's the question. Uh, how do you transform employer views on evaluating potential employees against education level and compared to work-based learning, particularly when job titles are still fundamentally dependent on education requirements and they're connected to wage bracketing? Without convincing employers to modify job requirements, how does your admirable plan here meet these obstacles?
It's a great question. I would say we're increasingly seeing employers reevaluate their approach to degrees, particularly those leading employers. I mentioned that less than 32% of the U.S. workforce has a baccalaureate degree. So if you're an employer who's competing in an increasingly complex and competitive job market, insisting on a degree, employers have often used degree as a proxy for skills, which I think is implicit in your question, but they're also aware that it's not necessarily panning out. Not all skills, it's not necessarily well serving them. People arrive into the workforce with a college degree, but not necessarily with the exact skills necessary to be work ready. And employers are having to invest a lot of resources to onboard those employees anyway, despite the degree. Not opposed to college degree. I loved college. It's an amazing space. I loved working in higher education. Still totally believe in the power of higher education. But I also know that if you're trying to attract employees, and from an equity perspective, we know that this paper ceiling has inequitably impacted people across the workforce And it breaks down in very specific demographic ways. Um, you're not going to be able to attract the workforce of the future, which is increasingly diverse. And um, if you're looking for skills, and college isn't quite the proxy for it, you really do need to look at how you can onboard, evaluate, qualify people, move them up within your organization in a skills based way, with or without the degree. I would advocate for lifelong learning, really, as the approach in terms of from an employer perspective, where you're onboarding people, you're nurturing those relationships, you're taking the initial skill set that they may have, building from there, and creating a bracketed or ladder approach. So there's maybe a micro credential, on the job training, time to level out, time to increase those skills, and you're continuing to ratchet up so that people are having those growth opportunities, and you're improving your retention. Even a 0.5% in a large company of increased retention can be millions, if not billions of dollars added to your bottom line or retained in lost costs.
Thank you, Evelyn. That was great. Um, you know, almost it's almost like we remember. I'm old, so I remember the 1960s, and there was companies would train their own employees,
Yep.
but that's all gone away. So I guess we're missing that. Maybe it's self-correcting. You think so?
I think so. I think, you're absolutely right. We used to have great onboarding, great training programs, um, opportunities to move within a large employer and experience different roles, um, rotational programs, and the like. And many of those got cut in the last couple of recessions, 2001. Anything that survived often got cut in the housing crisis.
Yeah.
And we're now seeing that tightened constriction workforce, the lack of investment in that space was really, yeah, course correcting. I think that's a great way to put it. And I'm hopeful that employers will be responsive as we're seeing the better employers really doing that, investing in upskilling, and now starting to invest in getting in front of Gen Zers and really connecting the entire talent pipeline.
Yeah, yeah. So here's a comment, not actually a question. They said,
Sure.
it seems we need to develop a more dynamic training system as well as to incorporate more employees from a range, no experience but higher education versus little theoretical knowledge, but a high degree of experience. And their final word was tricky.
Yep.
So
Sure.
here's a real question though. Can you provide guidance to employers and coworkers on how to best communicate with Gen Zers? It appears as though they're kind of directing the methods using only text. There should be a way to meet in the middle where we modernize our methods without giving up appropriate business practices, which are required for documentation and legal reasons.
Um, I mean, I think a modernization of our communications is certainly in order. It'd be great to integrate. Many of us are frustrated, right? We're getting texts, we're getting emails, there's, Slack channels and, all kinds of different spaces that are fighting for our attention. It'd be great if there was a way to, streamline some of that. I certainly recognize the need for documentation and legal reasons. That's certainly understandable. But modernization of communications and pulling things together, I think, is something that, we all need to evolve as we grow. And certainly things changed with email. And as we continue to push into the future, certainly, text and other mechanisms of communication are just part of the mix.
Okay, great. We're looking for some more questions here. Haven't seen any come in a minute, uh, but it It does seem like, there's a disconnect, not a disconnect. There's been a shift with the Gen Z in terms of their mode of communications. I don't think you're going to change all of them, but those of us who use these tools ought to be able to adjust.
Yeah, and not just Gen Z. I mean, I'm a Gen Xer and I would prefer to text oftentimes than, having people randomly call. Um, it's always great to chat with when you have time, but sometimes in a highly scheduled space, to be able to pick when I'm ready, that asynchronous communication is really helpful.
Hmm.
And part of the mix is just figuring out, I think, what the right tool is for the right situation. And that's certainly been a lifelong learning lesson for me to know when is it right to maybe not send the email and to pick up the phone and call somebody,
Hmm.
or when is the right time to maybe have a meeting instead of trying to email back and forth. I think we're all trying to figure out the right ways to communicate with each other, to be responsive, to make that communication transparent and accessible, to be thoughtful about that communication and empathetic. There's a lot, hopefully, more innovations to come as we go. Maybe it'll become easier.
Certainly hope so.
Couldn't become harder,
Okay.
could it?
Yeah, I don't think so. Um, so I want to mention something to all of the participants here. Uh, we usually indicate that we will not give recertification units to people who simply watch the video. Uh, but this, there's been a number of people I've been dealing with here while you're talking that have been trying to get in and could not. And so I think we might experiment this time with providing a note that indicates they get their recertification units for watching the video. And we will give them, it's the honor system that they will watch your video. Okay. I can't think of how else to be fair. Again, some of these registration problems we think were brought on by WebEx. So that was kind of a surprise for all of us. Does anyone else have any questions for Evelyn? I think her mission she's on here is just a wonderful thing.
Wow. Yeah.
Did we have any announcements? We've got the slide up here talking about our future webinars. There's one from Dr. Noble and then one from Sandy Furter and Doug Wood coming up. Were there any announcements that the Education Division representatives would like to make?
Not at this time. We are not going to have another webinar until about August. But we are encouraging everybody to be a part of our division and, of course, attend the World Conference next month.
Yes. Yes, that's great.
Yes.
I'll be there.
Yes, I know. I will be too.
Okay. So yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're kind of getting toward. Okay, here we go. Here's a question. Yeah. Who vetted the organizations and links in Next Voice?
Interesting.
It's a great question. So, our corporate responsibility programs team and product team work together inside of ASA, along with our design consultants and development teams to build out the systems of Next Voice, and then also to work on creating the content, the links, the organization, and partnerships that support Next Voice.
Okay.
So ASA efforts.
Okay, great. Well, not seeing more questions coming in here. Maybe we're kind of winding down here. We will finish this up. So, Shobha, why don't you
Yeah.
close us out, okay?
All right. Doug, can you stop recording, please?